Hello and welcome. My name is Joshua Garcia, and today we're talking about the Winter Warmer, one of my favorite beers, especially during the cold weather season. If you're experiencing snow or some cold weather, this is a great beer to get out there and brew. And if you're in the tropics and it's hot, and you're just looking for a nice, hearty beer, it's a really good option as well. So the winter ale, it's one of those old-fashioned type of beers. It comes from Europe and it's, a strong ale, high alcohol, a lot of malts in there. So when you're drinking it, you're just feeling that warmth just rushing over your body. It's great for that cold weather by the fireplace and everything like that. It's honestly one of my favorite beers to make. I think I make it every year sometime in the winter. I'll usually start sometime in like October or November, hopefully have it out just before after Thanksgiving, gone by Christmas or New Year's, but it's just one of my favorite ones. And I personally, you can do this without spices, but the creativity kind of allows you to shine through the spices. So I make a spiced winter beer, and I like to add different flavors and spices to it to sort of each year kind of mess around and play with it each time. So let's start with the base malt. The base malt is the most important thing here because this is what our beer is built on. For me, I like to do 80% of the Maris Otter. Again, it's a European beer. I'm trying to keep it in the realm of Europe with the base malt. Going American two-row is completely fine though. If that's what you want to do, please do that. But I like to stick with the Maris Otter. I think it gives it a great texture. And then one of my favorite malts, Munich, 10% of Munich on top of that. So that kind of completes my entire base. But Munich is an amazing malt that I put in everything almost when it shouldn't even probably be there, but I just love it. So I put it in. After that, I'm going to do about 5% flaked oats. That's something that just gives you that nice silky mouthfeel, that texture. I don't want to make it like a wheat beer. I don't want to make it like an oatmeal stout or anything like that. So 5% is sort of a sweet spot for me of just where that's going to affect the beer and how that's going to be like nice and creamy, like weedy smooth, but nothing too overbearing. And then the last 5%, you get those roasty flavors, get the roasted barley and the chocolate malt. You can do some other ones for yourself, but that's kind of 50-50 of chocolate to roasted barley. For a 5-gallon batch, it's about 5 ounces of each. It's not much. It's going to darken up your beer to a pretty black consistency. It might not be as dark as a stout, but it's going to be close. And you're going to get that roasted and sweet flavor to it without it being overbearing. It's like this game of being hearty and smooth and filling without being a stout or a porter or anything like that. So you're kind of playing with that line. And with this grain bill, we should be looking at something like a 1.066 starting gravity. That's going to be what I'm shooting for, 1.065. That's a good starting gravity for a beer like this. And then final gravity, after everything's said and done, we should be at a 1.016. So that's going to equal out to something like a 6.7% beer, something in the high 6%, almost getting to a 7%, but not quite there. So pretty high on the alcohol, pretty high on the maltiness and the flavor. So like I said, just one of those nice filling, warming, alcoholic type beers. And then we got hops, and really we don't have that many. We just have a single addition at the beginning of the boil just for bittering. So one that I really like to use if you are choosing one is Warrior. It's like a high alpha acidity bittering, doesn't really come off with aroma or anything like that. I mean, it's going to get lost in there anyways, but I found that to be a good hop for this beer. But if you have some dual purpose high alpha acidity hops just hanging out that you're looking to use, this is a great time to throw those in. Get an ounce of those and toss them in because, again, we're just trying to bitter on the back end. It's a great chance to kind of try and use up some of those hops. And then we got the yeast, and if you want to keep it as simple as possible, which I did, the USO4 English Ale, the dry yeast packet that you can find absolutely everywhere. They're cheap. You can keep them in the fridge. They're durable, and they will create a great English ale for you. So this is a perfect time to use that. You don't have to break the bank, but if you are looking for a liquid yeast, if you just like using liquid yeast more, try out Imperial yeast. I'm a huge fan of Imperial yeast. They do some great products. I've never had a beer. The beers that I've used with their yeast have turned out great. And specifically for this one, look up House or Pub, both of those English style yeast strains. Phenomenal. They're also kind of like in a double pitch. Like, it's a little expensive, but when you think about it, you're almost buying 2 packets of yeast just because they are double of what a White Labs packet would be. So you usually don't need a starter with them. they're great. All right, so that's your base to make the beer. Again, that's going to make you a nice winter warmer. If you want to stop there, that is totally fine. But spicing it is where you can flex your creativity. You can do so much with it. It's fun. It makes people kind of question what you're doing. It's a way to just express yourself and try something new and get different flavors. It reminds me of mulled wine. It kind of feels good for the holiday season. It feels good for just the winter. It just adds a different aspect to the beer that you can't get anywhere else, and really makes it feel like a nice home brew of your own quality. If you haven't done it before, you're looking for something a little bit more foolproof, I'll tell you right now, one of my favorite ones so far, for a 5-gallon batch, I did 8 cinnamon sticks and an ounce of ginger. That might sound a little weird to put ginger in there, but it works really well. So an ounce of ginger, 8 cinnamon sticks, that one, like I should have gone to competition with it because I absolutely loved it. So I think I'll make that one again someday. This time, I went a little bit spicier. I did the cinnamon sticks again. Every recipe you go across is going to have cinnamon sticks, so you might as well add cinnamon sticks. But I did the cinnamon sticks, the anise star. Careful with the anise star. I did like 3 of them, and even that seems a little potent. So I might scale that back to 2 next time if I do go with them again. I just kind of wish I had done 2 instead of 3. And then I did a vanilla bean. Vanilla beans are kind of expensive, but it adds that sweetness, that little vanilla flavor to it. A vanilla bean, don't do vanilla extract, it's just not gonna come out right. Some other notable mentions for a good spice to add, of course, is nutmeg. Nutmeg, very popular, again, for the holidays. Who doesn't like a little bit of nutmeg in their drink? Cloves as well, come on, I mean, cloves is something we put in mulled wine and a bunch of other things. I mean, it's a great spice, a great thing to have in this beer as well. So there's nothing really you can do to go wrong other than adding too much. All right, so there's our guy. You can see him. It's not black. I don't know how it looks on camera, but it's very dark brown, very English ale type. Nice head retention, nice foam. Really just a beautiful beer. And the taste is there. The spices have mellowed out. One thing I will say is that when I was tasting it, I was tasting samples from the bottom of the fermenter, and that left a lot of spice in the samples that I was taking. You know, when you're working with cinnamon and cloves or any of these things, you'll probably get a lot of like the dust or the spice sort of moving and flowing throughout the beer. This is a good time to try and filter it out. So filter it out through hop spiders, through mesh bags. I went into secondary on another carboy, and then that secondary, after a little while, I put it in a mini fridge and cold crashed it to kind of get that separation so that the sediment would sink to the bottom more. When I finally did pull off all the beer in that carboy, I think I left behind like 16 ounces because I was just so scared of pulling up all that sediment that was on the bottom because I didn't want it to get inside that beer or just be too potent. You know, especially with bottles, you kind of put them in the fridge and all the sediment sticks to the bottom because they're cold, and then when you finally go and drink them, it tastes really good, but then at the end you just get this flavor bomb of all the spices that have just sank to the bottom of it. So again, it's something to look out for. You want to try and just clean up the beer, get the spices out of there, because the raw spice is really something that it puts a lot of flavor in your mouth. Cold crashing is great, filtration is great, but that's just a tip for this beer to look out for. When you're pulling samples, if it's tasting overly spicy, you might just be getting a lot of that raw spice that is still sitting inside that beer. So that can be overcome by just filtering and trying to pull off the fresh, cleaner beer on top. I think that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look into the Winter Spice Ale, a fantastic beer. I hope you try it for yourself. If you did like this video, please leave a like down below. Comment with what spices you're going to try, because I'd love to hear from you guys. But until then, stay warm. Cheers.